So what I'm going to do is I'm going to single out a specific clip again, and I want to show you how to adjust effects on a clip. So we're going to go back to the source window. Remember, there's the project window, the source window, the timeline window, and the program window. We're going to go to the source window, and we're going to actually click on another tab that we haven't looked at yet called Effects Controls. Effects Controls is going to be dependent on the specific clip that you're clicked on. So I'm going to click on this clip right here, this footage of San Diego. And as you can see, there's a bunch of effects that are by default always on every clip that you're able to edit. Now I'm going to show you a way how you can actually add additional effects onto clips. But for right now, we're just going to deal with the default effects. The default effects are as follows: position. This allows you to control the position of the clip and drag it back and forth in the X space or the Y space. Then there's the scale. You can change the scale of the clip, make it bigger or smaller. Let's change the position and then change the scale. Then you can change the rotation by picking the angle that it's going to rotate at. Let's bring it back to 0. All right. And then we can control the opacity as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to click off the stopwatch. I'm going to tell you what the stopwatch is for soon, but for now, we're just going to click it off, and we're just going to control the opacity. This is basically the transparency of the clip. So 100% opacity means that you cannot see through it at all. And then there's 0% opacity. That means it's completely transparent. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually align the clip so that it just fills in the edges. Perfect. Now down here, you have default audio effects as well. Again, let's turn these stopwatches off for now. And the only audio effect that we're going to talk about is the volume. The volume is pretty intuitive. It just basically tells you how loud the audio in your clip is going to be. You can control your volume down here. Alrighty, next thing that we're going to talk about is effects. So we've talked about the effects controls panel and the default effects that are on the effects controls panel that you can find regardless of the piece of footage that you are dealing with. But how do you add extra effects that are apart from those default effects? Well, we're going to go to the effects panel. That is down here in the project window. So we're kind of changing things up again, but the general layout is still the same as far as Premiere goes. So this is the effects panel. This is basically going to show you the entire effects library. So let's go into video effects. There are any number of video effects. You can go to, let's go to a blur effect, the Gaussian blur effect. We'll drag that onto our clip. Now check this out. We're going to drag it onto the clip, and it's going to appear in the effects controls panel. Why is that? Because this effects library remains the same. The effects controls panel is specifically linked to the clip that is being clicked on. So if I click on this clip, you're going to see the Gaussian blur effect that I just put on from the effects library. If I click on, say, this clip, that Gaussian blur effect is no longer in effects controls because effects controls is attached to the specific clip that is being clicked on. Okay, perfect. So you can then go in and you can change the effect within the effects controls panel once it's been dragged in. So I can change the blurriness. I can make it really blurry. I can make it less blurry. And each of these effects have different ways that it can be controlled. They're all pretty intuitive. Now let's go out of video effects and let's look at audio effects. Audio effects, there are so many different audio effects, whether it be reverb, echo effects. We're not going to really go into that. You can even add another volume effect if you want to raise the volume crazy high, but we won't even go into that. We're going to go into video transitions now. Video transitions are just what it sounds like. It offers different stylistic ways to transition between clips. So I have this clip and I'm going to put it right smack dab against this clip right here. And as you can see, I could go to, let's go into dissolve. This is one of the most common transitions, a basic cross dissolve. I'm going to drag this I'm going to drag this transition in between these two clips. You always drag transitions in between clips. And what a cross dissolve is going to do is it's going to allow one clip to fade out as that next clip is fading in. I'm going to click on this cross dissolve and delete it. If you don't have a transition, you're just going to have a hard cut between two clips, just as you'd expect. Cool. So one thing I want to do, guys, is I want to show you something. You can put that cross dissolve on either the end of a clip to make it fade in from nothing. You can also put a cross dissolve on the other end of the clip to make it fade out to nothing. And then, of course, I already told you, let's delete that you can put a cross dissolve in between two clips to fade in between clips. But what I want to show you in addition to that, guys, is cross dissolve is such a common transition that Premiere Pro has made it really easy for you. If you go to your selection tool, like you should be in already, you can actually just hover over the edge of a clip where when the selection tool turns red with this kind of red arrow thing that we talked about before, and then right click, and then you can say apply default transition, and that cross dissolve will automatically be placed. You can of course change that default transition in settings. We're not going to go into that, but this is an easy way to kind of create a cross dissolve so you can fade in, or you can maybe even put one on this end and fade out without having to go into effects and going and finding video transitions, dissolve and cross dissolve, then dragging it onto the clip. This is way easier. Whoa, guys, what is this? If you check down here, you can see that kind of a cross dissolve was added to the audio as well. So I'm going to undo what I just did, Control Z, and I'm going to show you something. Cross dissolve, there's a cross dissolve for audio as well as a cross dissolve for video. Okay, let's go check it out real quick. Let's go over to audio transitions. It's called constant power. We can delete that. And we'll put it on manually. Constant power is basically a fade in and a fade out. It's that simple. Again, you can, instead of going through the trouble of putting it on manually, you can add constant power the same way that you add cross dissolve to your clips, to your audio, just by clicking on the edge and saying apply default transition. Let's delete these for now. And I'm going to go over a very important tool. Now that we're talking about how clips are interacting with each other, I want to discuss the snapping tool. Make sure that the snap in timeline tool is always clicked on, meaning make sure it's always blue. That's going to make sure that when you are trying to align clips together, that they're going to actually snap into place like that. If you had this off, you wouldn't be able to accurately put clips right so that they're touching each other right on the edge. They're going to kind of have the tendency to slide into each other and cut through each other. If you have the snap button on, you know that your clip is going to snap exactly onto the edge of the clip, and you're going to see that little white arrow go in between each clip, and you're going to know that those clips are touching right on the edges of each other. Alrighty, and now what I want to do is I want to actually start editing this video. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to highlight everything, and I'm going to delete all those clips. I'm going to go back into our project window. I'm going to go to clips, and I'm going to start from scratch, meaning onto my timeline.